We are all glued to our phones and always connected. But do you ever think about what happens when these connections go down, especially when it really matters?
Yeah, especially in emergencies when every second counts.
Exactly. Today on Technically You, we will dive into a system that's like the unsung hero of emergency communications.
I like that. An unsung hero.
It's called the Telecommunications Service Priority Program, TSP for short.
Right. You shared some great information about it.
Yes, and I was blown away, to be honest. This program makes sure that vital services,
Can still communicate when everything else is falling apart.
yeah, no matter what, chaos is happening.
And this is pretty important stuff.
Absolutely. So, TSP, what it does is it basically creates a fast lane for essential communications.
Gotcha. So it gives priority to voice and data circuits.
So, hospitals, first responders, government agencies, they
Can communicate even when the networks are totally,
jammed or even damaged.
wow, that's amazing. But here's what really surprised me.
What's that?
It's not just for the government, right?
Nope, not at all.
Even some nonprofits can get prioritized.
You know, it's interesting because that shows how our thinking has evolved
How so?
about what's actually critical in an emergency. Nonprofits are often vital for things like disaster relief, healthcare, and even national security.
It's true.
So their inclusion in TSP, I think it emphasizes how crucial they've become for communities.
Yeah, for keeping everyone safe.
Exactly. It's not just about the government anymore.
Right, it's a team effort.
It really is. And within TSP, there are actually 5 different priority levels. First, there are levels 1 and 2. They're the top dogs reserved for national security leaders
Oh, wow.
and essential military communications. Think of it this way, like the control tower at an airport during an emergency. They have to be able to communicate.
Right, so they can manage the whole situation.
Exactly. And then you have the folks on the ground, right?
Yeah, like the first responders.
Exactly. That's where level 3 comes in.
Okay,
The one we're most likely to experience. This level prioritizes public safety organizations.
gotcha.
So police, fire departments, EMS, basically anyone directly responding.
Right. On the front lines.
So like imagine a hurricane.
Okay.
Level 1, make sure the National Weather Service can send out warnings.
And level 3, that guarantees search and rescue teams can coordinate.
Wow, that's a well-oiled machine.
Yes, making sure everything runs smoothly.
So with all these organizations, how do they decide who gets in the program?
Well, it involves a federal sponsorship system, especially for those non-federal groups. Um, it's kind of like,
Getting verified on social media.
exactly. A federal agency vouches for them, saying they're critical and that they need prioritized communication. Then the FCC or CISA looks at the application, and if they approve it, bam. The organization gets these special TSP authorization codes.
So those codes are like a backstage pass. Yeah. Telling the network providers to bump these guys to the front of the line during an emergency.
This is complicated stuff.
It's pretty intricate.
So I bet this priority service,
It's gotta cost something, right?
I was just thinking that.
You're right. There is a cost that is usually handled at the state level.
Oh, okay.
The typical enrollment fee is about $100. Then it's like $3 per line each month.
So not too bad.
You know, it might seem like an extra expense, but you have got to think about what it would cost if communication failed during an emergency.
Oh, that's true.
It's like insurance, so it is a small price to pay.
Yes, peace of mind.
Exactly. Could you imagine an ambulance being delayed?
Because their lines were down? Or a hospital unable to coordinate care?
Investing in TSP, it's investing in preparedness.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This program is really important.
It's absolutely vital.
It makes you think, what services are in your community?
Yeah,
Would you want to have this priority access?
that's a great question. Hospitals and emergency services, obviously.
Of course.
But think about schools during lockdowns. Yeah, or even some news outlets. They are supposed to keep the public informed.
No, you're right. We take this stuff for granted. Like it.
We really do.
Today's Technically You podcast is about awareness. The more we understand these systems, the more we can support them and make them even better.
Exactly. It makes our whole society more resilient. If any of our listeners are interested in learning more, please do so. You can reach out to the Priority Telecommunications Service Center.
Yeah, they are the best resource.
Their number is 866-662-7255.
And it is easier to write it down.
Or you can email them at ecd@cisa-hs.gov.
Awesome. I'm glad we got to talk about TSP today.
Me too. It's more important than most people realize.
It really is. It reminds us that communication is at
The heart of everything.
especially when things get tough.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. It was a great conversation.
And that's a wrap on our discussion on TSP.
Thanks for joining us and listening, everyone.
And be sure to tune in next time for another Technically We podcast into the world of technology.
We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.